This podcast episode is brought to you by Coors Light. These days, everything is go, go, go. It's nonstop hustle all the time. Work, friends, family expect you to be on 24/7. Well, sometimes you just need to reach for a Coors Light because it's made to chill. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged. It's as crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies. It is literally made to chill. Coors Light is the one I choose when I need to unwind. So when you want to hit reset, reach for the beer that's made to chill. Get Coors Light in the new look delivered straight to your door with Drizzly or Instacart. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Aikman is intercepted by Sam Mills.
Steve Smith is going to go all the way. Panthers win in overtime. Newton steps up, goes for the end zone. Olsen, touchdown. Brian Burns to the house.
And it is caught for the touchdown by Moore.
And in the foot race, McCaffrey to the end zone.
He pounded on three. 1, 2, 3. He pounded.
All right, Panthers fans, welcome back. It's another edition of the Roar podcast. We got a big one today for you. John Ellis, Billy Marshall. Man, the draft is right around the corner. We've been talking prospects, free agency. Sam Darnold's in the house, working with Christian McCaffrey. A lot to get to. Billy Marshall, how you doing, sir?
Doing pretty well. Gearing up for another NFL draft. Happy to have our guest on who has a pretty good track record of predicting their first round pick.
He has worked his way up into a great position with this organization, folks. Bill is a great follow at Panthers Bill. He's been kind enough to spend some time with us this afternoon as he's in the middle of about 50 things. He's the Assistant Director of Digital Media Broadcasting for the Panthers. Bill Voth joins us. Billy, how are you, sir?
Hi, guys. How are you? When you say Billy, are you talking to me or are you talking to Billy?
You know, my dad's named Bill, too. He says, John, if they're named Bill, call them Bill. If they're Billy, call them Billy. How are you doing, Bill?
My family still call me. Do you want to know who the people still, like, this is going to amaze you. The people who still call me Billy are my family, and you won't believe, Marty Herney.
Nice.
When I would see Marty in the hall, he'd be like, hey, Billy.
Billy.
I don't know. It was kind of slightly endearing.
You got the grumbling, Billy. Hey, Billy. How you doing?
There
Some
you go.
coffee, Billy. Bill, it's great to have you on the show, of course. Look, it's a busy time right now. Sam Darnold is in the house. That trade went down. I think it was right after April Fool's there. People were thinking, okay, what is Carolina doing? There's a lot of chatter. Is it Matt Stafford? Was it going to be Deshaun Watson? That obviously took a turn. Will it be the draft? And then, lo and behold, Sam Darnold ends up as a Carolina Panther. Just your initial reaction to that deal going down and what you've noticed from Sam since you've gotten to spend obviously a little time around him in the building there.
I actually was not here the day he was in the building last Monday. I'm usually here I'm like the carpet. I'm always here, unfortunately. And then I actually had the gall to take a couple days off, flip to Boston. So I was not here. But a couple content pieces that we did do with him that I've seen make him look, I mean, this is me judging, like, what do I know? Make him seem like, of course, he's not going to be a Cam-like personality. But there's just like he totally gets what to say in front of the camera. Not necessarily like just in a press conference, because I think he'll do that. But I mean, like just playing along with kind of how we needed him to play along with. We did a knockoff of Hot Ones. I'm obsessed with Hot Ones. So this hasn't been released yet. Hopefully it'll come out this week. We did something with Kristen Paul Balboni called Southern Ones, where he tasted Southern foods, and he loves Hot Ones. And great. So he knew exactly how to act. And so I just really because I'm obsessed with Hot Ones, and then I saw how he acted during this, I became a content fan of his. So I'm excited to see what else we can do with them. I don't know if these guys can play or not. I mean, to me, like, do they have a good personality or not? Like, I really wanted Jair Alexander a couple of years ago.
I remember that
because I don't know if he can play or not. I just know that I want a talker. I want a guy who's a personality.
Right. How does he help me? That's what players want to know. How can you help me, coach? And that's what you're looking at, Billy. Who's the player that can help me as a content creator? I think that's fantastic. I can't wait to see that.
I think that's fair. Isn't that all you guys care about, right? What makes the Panthers content look better? Isn't that why we're all here?
You know what? I have a lot of respect for what you guys do, and I would like to see some wins at some point, but I think that's out of your wheelhouse, Bill. Some people
I am
disagree
for the
at
most
times.
part. Obviously, the job is better and more fun when they're winning. So of course, you'd like them to be able to play a bit too.
So let's quickly transition to the draft and look forward to what this team might do. Bill, obviously you have a pretty good track record of predicting, and me personally,
Well, you can't count the last 3 years because I mean I kind of had inside info.
No, okay, I'll go back to 2017 when you were one of the first that actually put out McCaffrey. 2016 they were going to take Hunter Henry, which is what you predicted until Vernon Butler fell. 15, I think no one else had Shaq Thompson.
Did I predict Hunter?
Yeah, you predict Hunter Henry.
Did I really? Okay.
Yeah, you forget how great you were, Bill. You forget your greatness sometimes.
Shaq's the only one I'm kind of proud of. Because to be honest, I think Jordan Rodriguez had Christian. Jordan was saying Christian to the fan base in like January and February when he wasn't on anyone's radar. So I want to give a credit on that one.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Shaq I was proud on because that's really hard when you're sitting in the 20s. And then I knew it was either going to be DJ Humphreys, right? Or Shaq.
Yeah, it was I think you had a best guess of Humphreys because I don't know, it's really tough, like you said.
You know me better than I know me, but yeah.
No, I'm looking at someone sent you like a and then obviously Benjamin was a pretty predictable one, especially given how Gettleman fetishes size and they needed a receiver at that time.
So anyway, I'm sorry I keep interrupting as I interrupt. It's kind of what I do.
But as you look forward to this draft, I feel like this regime is a little more like, I don't know if I want to call it unpredictable, but they're keeping their cards close to the vest. I'm reading a bunch of national people now saying that the Panthers really want to trade back and accumulate more picks because Matt Rule is supposedly tight-knit with Jimmy Johnson. He used to like that. And then I'm reading about how Fitterer in Seattle, that was a big thing they did. And I've seen some hints that you've suggested that offensive line is probably going to be priority in the first couple rounds. Can you give us a sense on what direction they're potentially going to go in or leaning in?
Sure. I think you guys both know. I mean, people who like follow me kind of closely understand that I like to just kind of drop hints. The offensive line stuff, though, isn't dropping hints. That's really just my personal feeling. Like, I think in order to make Sam Darnold work, he's going to have PTSD coming from what he just came from. He does not have time. I don't care. You got Kyle Pitts and everyone else running around. It doesn't matter. Like the memories of what happened in New York and I just think you don't give the guy too much of a chance. So that's, to me, I strongly feel like offensive line. That is not me reporting or even trying to drop hints. It's just like, that's the obvious thing, right? Like, how do you get this guy to see if there's actually number 3 pick value in him? Sure. And I think you have to give him a chance with an offensive line. Now, sitting there at 8, I think it's less them playing their cards close to their vest than it is they really have a lot of options and they are not locked in on people, which usually at this part of the process, teams are pretty locked in and know how things are going to shake out. But they have a lot of options. Of course they want it that way. Every team wants it that way, but there are so many unknowns this year. I just think you guys also probably know my feelings about mock drafts. I actually feel bad for the mock draft people because it's like, I mean, of all years at mock draft,
you chose violence today, Bill. I saw some of those. It was great. Is this V 9.0 or 10.0? It's like
people get really mad. But I'm being serious. Like, I understand, like, my sarcasm can a lot of times, like, it's hard for me to then be serious when I'm sarcastic all the time. But like, I'm being serious. Like, my mock draft is I don't know because I don't think they know. And I don't think that's because, well, like, they're just kind of walking around and like, we don't know. Like, it's like
nobody knows. Nobody knows anything.
It's like if this piece from 4 to 7 moves this way, then this could mean this at 8, and then this. So like, yes, they could sit there and they could draft a quarterback. Yes, they could sit there and draft an offensive tackle. Yes, they could move back. Like, all these things are in play. It's not like, well, really, like, this is how you like. Most teams also know what's going on ahead of them, and then they can put up their draft where they can have their mock drafts, and then they know what's going to happen. This year, I'm just getting a much different feeling this year around the league that teams don't have as good a grasp on what other teams are doing, which makes it really hard to predict.
Yeah, I mean, personal preference aside, John and I obviously would love to see Kyle Pitts, but I mean, there's been a lot of like momentum towards him going to Atlanta at 4, so we're probably giving up on that pipe dream.
Well,
I don't think anyone thinks he's going to fall. I think most football people call him like the best player in the draft, and so I mean, he's probably not going to fall to 8.
I mean, if you fell to 8, it's kind of tempting not to take him because I just feel like he's the Quentin Nelson of this draft, where position value, all that stuff goes out the window. He's just, in my opinion, he's the second best player behind Trevor Lawrence. But I really don't see like a team like Miami or even, like I said, Atlanta passing on him if he does get past Atlanta. I don't see Miami passing on him.
I've been asked this question on ESPN Upstate today on their show. Would you take Fields or Pitts at 8? And I was like, I don't think either one are going to be there, guys. Let's get realistic about what's probably going to happen here. It's a good hypothetical. I'd love to have Pitts in that offense. I think he'd be great, fantastic. But that still leaves that left tackle wide open there. I think, to your point, Bill, I mean, we've seen the carousel since Jordan Gross left in 2013. It hasn't been pretty. And it's been not only within the season, but within games they've had to rotate left tackles. They just got to find an answer there, I think. So if I had Pitts at number 8, I'd have to think about it. But man, if Sewell's sitting there or Slater, I think I'm going in that direction myself.
I said this in jest a week or two ago. Like I would spend all 7 picks, and I think I said 8 because I couldn't do math.
Yeah.
I would spend all 7 picks on offensive line. And like seriously, I said it in jest. But then also, like, did I? Like I don't like. If you don't have an offensive line, like we learned it again in the Super Bowl this year, the lines. It's all about the lines.
Actually, speaking of the offensive line, Bill, I'm curious because they have also spent, I mean, whatever we think about, the 2 players they signed, they did actually guarantee some, decent money to them. How do they factor into this equation? Because they also brought back John Miller too, and I thought he was pretty solid last season.
Love John Miller.
I'm assuming he's going to be, at least not the day one starter, but at least the leading contender to be the right guard.
If you give me 6 or 7 good offensive linemen, like starter quality, that's still not enough. So like, give me all your offensive linemen. Like I will hoard all of your good offensive linemen. So I don't think the guys they brought in this offseason really factor into anything that happens in the draft. I think it's like, okay, there's some people there. There's some people that could play, that are penciled in as starters. But that should not affect anything they do in the draft. They have to get younger, they have to get better, and they have to get more. You have to improve their depth. So again, I'm extreme when it comes to the line right now. It's just, especially with a guy like Sam Darnold, like I'm telling you, like those feelings of being chased around and whatnot in New York are gonna come back. Yeah. If people are in his face right away, what chance is he gonna have?
Bill Voth joins us from the Carolina Panthers on the Roar podcast. Bill, question I have for you regarding the overall makeup of what's going on in the front office here. Now, there's maybe some things that you can't touch on. I get that. There's some things you might not be privy to. Totally get that. But I'm fascinated by sort of what appears to be a little bit of change in, not philosophy necessarily, maybe a little bit of urgency there. I think the messaging was on point in terms of setting the right expectations. Market conditions obviously changed. Some veterans came available. Do you think Scott Fitterer, in a way, came in? I think he was the last GM candidate interviewed, if I'm not mistaken. He comes from an aggressive background. Do you think in any way Scott Fitterer had some type of influence on Tepper's thinking there, or is this just a collective decision that we need to get better at quarterback now, and this Bridgewater experiment doesn't seem to be it for us?
I mean, they were talking about getting a better quarterback in December while they were still playing games.
They were, weren't they? Yes.
Well before they interviewed anybody for GM quarterback. And I think it was just, let's go try and find a guy who can lead us to a Super Bowl. And
right.
I think you could say Deshaun Watson potentially could. Matt Stafford potentially could. Would you say that a Mitchell Trubisky or a Ryan Fitzpatrick? No, not really. So that's why Sam Darnold's kind of in the middle, right? It's just like, can he? I don't like. He's not like the other two. He's not like Stafford and Deshaun. But okay, that's somewhat interesting. Maybe we can make something of this that they thought to themselves. So it's Tepper always talks about optionality, and like you're giving yourself now option. Like he's an option. Is that and now then it comes to like how patient are you going to be, right? Because obviously with Petty, the patient didn't last all that long. How patient are you going to be with Sam? So that's why I think if a guy like a Justin Fields falls to 8. I wouldn't say that the Panthers aren't going to do that just because Sam Darnold's on the roster. It gives them yet another option if they go and pull the trigger with that. And it gives you another option at the most important position in football. Now, again, what would that do to Sam mentally? Like, would that push him? Would he be struck? Well, or would it just be this another thing where it's just like, you didn't really give this guy much of a chance when you bring in a top 10 pick. So, that I think that's one of the things. But again, that they're sitting there at 8 with all these options, and I think it's impossible to predict what's going to happen.
Where's Teddy right now? Has anybody spoken with him within the team? Is he still involved? And where do you see this ending up? A trade, a release? Does he stay around and work with Sam? How do you see this shaking out?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm going to reveal any information that people don't know. I mean, the first of those two are most likely, I would think, right? Either a trade or a release. It would be tough to, after all these months, to go through and still have them on the roster. I think they do it. Like, that's the one thing about Matt Rule, and people think Rule's always just kind of like, can I swear on here?
Please do. Yes.
Bull driving.
Please go. No,
but like, I think
no. Start over. Please, Bill, go back and do it the right way.
It's a child's program. It's a child's podcast. We got to be family friendly. But like, I think he would have been fine with Cam. He was fine with Teddy. He was fine. He's fine with Sam. Like, he's like, as cheesy as this sounds. And like, listen, I'm not a cheeseball. Like, he's trying to build like this entire team. And yes, of course, they realize that the quarterback's the most like important position. But you've got to fill out the rest of the roster too. So I think he's willing to take a shot with a lot of these guys. I don't even remember what the question was. What was it?
Oh, it was just that.
And I haven't even drinking.
That's bullshit, Bill. Get with
it. Whoa! We gotta beat that out.
No, a question obviously was about Bridgewater's future, where you see that ending up. But I think, to your point, there's not much that I think anybody knows. Maybe even in your position, I don't think you've got, you've got a lot going on there. But I don't think you're privy. I don't think a lot of people within football ops really know right now what's going to happen with Teddy, if I'd had to guess. But it's fascinating.
I've not seen him. I don't know if you follow him on Instagram. I did notice he was posting some really, isn't that weird, vague things last week on his Instagram story. And I feel like they were like messages, because I didn't see that. He was quiet for months, and then he just did a whole bunch of strange videos. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's the NFL. Things happen. One thing I like about Matt Rule, one thing that I think hit a lot of people the wrong way about it, the Cam Newton thing, the fans at least, it's a business. And, look, it happened. There were a lot of things around that Cam Newton situation that I'm sure you were privy to within that building. But in terms of this situation, Teddy was their guy, $33 million guaranteed. Now, a lot of people put that at the feet of Marty Herney. I'm sure he had a huge part of that. But he was obviously on Matt Rule's radar. I think a lot of people say, well, this is another failure by Matt Rule. Look, I think it's good that they go ahead and own up. Look, this is just not working. We need to find something else. We need to keep building with some type of pace here. Don't wait too long on this. It's unfortunate that the second year of that contract is prohibitive, but I do like the fact that Matt, one thing I've heard, Bill, and you know Matt better than I do, he works his guys really hard. He's fair, but he is very much a grinder. He works his assistants very hard. He's very firm on his players. Comes from a Tom Coughlin background. Obviously doesn't mince words. Your impressions of Matt Rule as a second-year coach now, coming from Baylor. He's had a chance to settle in. You've gotten a chance to know the guy individually, one-on-one. But from a coaching perspective, how is he coming along?
It is – he does have a different way of going about things than Ron, of course. But Ron was an exception to the rule as well, as far as you don't find a lot of Rons out there. As someone, again, it goes back to the whole content person. Like, I appreciate people who are transparent and just say what we all see. Like that, I appreciate that, as opposed to, and I love Ron. I really do. I really like Ron as a person. But when Ron came out after that week 2, Thursday night against Tampa, and said it had nothing to do with Cam's split, and it was just like
that.
And so right. I do appreciate Rule just kind of not bull jiving as much. Again, it's a family podcast. I do like that, and I think it's funny that people think he's up there lying when I'm like, no, you guys don't understand. Like, Ron was the one up there with like the coach speak. No, he did it in a very nice way. But he was the coach, but he was the one who would always be like, oh yeah, I think he could play this week, when like everyone knew the guy wasn't going to play. But like, he was always just kind of like glass half full.
No, some of the exchanges I know it wasn't with you, but I think it was maybe one ESPN, I'm not going to mention names here. There was one exchange during one of the pressers was like, and there was like the whole concussion
I remember
thing
that.
with Kuechly.
That was in 2015.
Ron was very defensive of his players too, so I think that was part of it. But you're right, much different communication style, much different.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's right or wrong. It's different. It's also coming from a college world. But again, I appreciate knowing like what the facts are, and then seeing Matt say them during the week, and then people being like, well, he can't mean this, and it's like, well, no, he really does, because like he's just not. Like, I think there was like injury stuff this year, and like they weren't stringing Christian along. They weren't like every step during that process of Christian, whether he could play or not, like he was being completely truthful about it. Like it's almost like he's being so truthful. Like I don't know if he knows he has to be this truthful. Like he doesn't have to be this truthful about this stuff.
Very candid.
But he doesn't, like, in a lot of ways he doesn't treat it like the CIA. It's like the rest of the league can see it. So like why not just kind of acknowledge it?
No, I totally agree. I think it goes both ways in some respect. I mean, I always didn't mind kind of Rivera's sort of. I mean, Rivera's kind of like an establishment NFL guy. I don't say that in a bad way either. I just feel like he kind of grew up with the, Mike Ditka, and he worked for Andy Reid, so he kind of understood how to answer those questions. And Matt's coming from the college ranks. But one question I do want to ask you is, I don't know how to feel about some of the perception about the team whenever like they're involved in transactions or anything. They're always like tying it directly to the owner. They always say, oh, David Tepper wants to do this, David Tepper wants to do that. And we don't hear much about the details about how the general manager, Scott Fitter, thinks, or even Matt Rule for that matter as well. Why do you think that type of kind of perception right now exists within the NFL media? And how much truth is there, in fact, in discussing how much like kind of control or power the owner has over his general manager and head coach?
Well, I think Dave's a lot like, as we were just talking about with Rule, like Dave, if you get him on camera on a microphone, he's just going to say what's on his mind. And so when you get a guy like that, I think people are assuming like, well, he must be telling his football people what he thinks too. I cannot tell you. I actually do not know. Like, is he the one? I don't know how heavily he's pushing buttons. I honestly do not know. But obviously he's involved, and he wants to turn. He had to turn around and a different way of how the organization thought from a football side. Well, first from a business side, and then from a football side. And he's like, we need to modernize these thoughts. Now, how do you modernize them while also saying, listen, I know things I don't know? So it's like, I think it's kind of like in my position right now, like I don't know how to do the social. I don't know how to write. I don't know how to do video. I don't know how to do all this stuff better than the people on the staff here. So it's just kind of like, I can nudge them. Hey, we got to go. Like, let's go over here. Let's try and go over here. I don't know how to get there, but it's like, it's like this encouragement. Let's try this new. Let's try and do something different. Let's try and do this. Let's try and do that. And I think when you have old football establishment people, they're like, well, why are you helicoptering in and telling us what to do? You're not even a football person. And so I think it's more like, no, think differently, think out of the box, right? You go back to that last episode of All or Nothing when Dave said something about how, it's an 8-8 league. It's designed to be an 8-8 league. So you got to figure out advantages here, there, blah, 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 blah. Now, if, the advantage is taking Tom Brady in the 6th round, that's a pretty big advantage. But, the Patriots passed on Tom Brady 6 times before they took him with their 7th pick that year. So that stuff's just so hard to predict when it comes to drafts and all this stuff. So that's why Tepper's come in. He's trying to find these little advantages with all this other stuff behind the scenes. And so I think some of that stuff gets combined with, he's really meddling and stuff like that. When, he's trying to give these guys a lot of tools and whatnot, and encouraging them to try these new things, different things here. Because, well, if you do it the old way, that's not much of an advantage. But if you do it this new way, maybe there's an advantage here, if that makes sense.
Bill, there's two names we don't talk enough about. I think Pat Stewart, Samir Suleiman. I think Samir was featured in one of Darren Gant's stories a while back. Darren was on our pod, by the way. It was just magnificent. I love his stories, and he goes way back with this team, as you well know. But I think those are two individuals in the front office that don't get enough credit, although I don't see them face to face. I just understand from those with whom I speak that they do really good work in terms of not only managing the cap, but Stewart's relationship with Matt Rule goes way back, and that obviously builds some trust there. I think if you look at the total front office, I talked to Sam Farmer a few weeks back on our pod. He's known Fitter since high school. And he just had nothing but great things to say about this guy. He said, look, you're getting a really sound guy who's been through 3 regimes in Seattle. I just feel like they finally have it together with the front office structure. They're getting it together. It just seems like it's a nice structure, and I think Tepper's doing a good job of letting them work.
Yeah, I think, you look at it, I think, like, who's done it really well as a new staff the past few years. You look at the Rams. I don't know enough about them I'm sure you guys do. I don't, to know how to do it. I just know that, you had Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott go to Buffalo at the same time. They had to tear everything up and redo it. They've been really good at it, but they had to tear stuff up. This one's a little different, where it's like, well, Matt came in, Marty was still here, so you're kind of building over here, but you're still doing things this way. So it's been kind of different, kind of different ways to like move and this and that. And I do think Matt and Marty had a good relationship. But I think it's becoming more of I think it's becoming, of course, when you give it more time, it's going to be more of where people are comfortable and who they're comfortable with and who's trying new things, and who wants to be modern. I know, Samir to us, again, I can speak selfishly, has been fantastic. The fact that he went on the record in December and told the fan base what was going to happen with Taylor Moton and Curtis Samuel.
That was fantastic. That was great.
Yeah, people for 3 months were like, yeah, but like you had we're not trying to pull wool over like anyone's eyes. Like he said, like this is just the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
If Curtis for some reason wasn't going to get paid, then of course he would be back here, but everyone knew he was going to get paid. But anyway, he's been great. We had GoPros in his. Here's another tease for you. If a video we may put out after the draft. We had GoPros in his office throughout most of free agency. Like that. It's just like these guys really understand a lot of this. It's like what modern fan bases need and want. Pat, I cannot speak to that much. I think he's from Ohio, or he spent a lot of time in Ohio, because I have a good friend who like swears by Pat Stewart and is like, you got to go get drinks with him once this COVID stuff's over. But I really haven't talked much with Pat over this past year because this COVID stuff has been going on. And so I have not spent much time with him, but I do in some interactions I've seen the what is it when you all work together? I just had it in my head. What's the word I'm looking for? When you all work together well.
Synergy, the chemistry. How about chemistry?
I'll think of it again. But it does seem like those guys, Fitterer, Samir, Rule, Pat Stewart, a bunch of other guys back there are really like working well together, at least on the GoPro footage that I've seen.
And that's what matters, the content. A couple fan questions here. So this is from Tepper's Fake Brass Balls on Twitter. Sorry about that, families. What's Bill's thoughts?
What is the real one?
You have to ask your boss. I don't know. What's Bill's thoughts on us trading down? Fitterer talked initially like not moving out of the top 10 versus moving down in other parts of the draft due to talent at top 10. Now that some holes in free agency have been filled, do you expect maybe to move down? So what are your thoughts on it? Do you have any feelings that, I mean, obviously you don't know the draft. We're all mock drafting here out of our butts. Do you think with Scott Fitterer's background in Seattle, though, maybe they look to trade back a little bit and pick up some extra compensation? What are your thoughts on that?
Even take away his background. I think a lot of GMs go into the draft if they're not dead set on a guy. Sure, if you're going to give me a few extra picks, I'll go back a couple picks. Sure,
except for Dave Gettleman.
So yeah, I could see that happening. Like if Justin Fields is sitting there at 8, it's going to be an interesting decision.
Oh my goodness.
Do you take him? Do you add to that outright? It's a quarterback. It could be a stud. Who knows? Or do you take picks? Do you take? I was telling this to someone a couple of weeks ago. Like if they could get their second round pick next year back somehow, then really it's like. And I know I'm really oversimplifying things. But if you can fill your second back up next year just because you moved a couple spots, then what did you really give up for Sam Darnold?
That's it.
You gave up.
Yep.
I mean, you're not going to count the late 6th this year. You gave up like a 4th.
It's very much. It's been explained to me by Pat Kerwin's one of the best on the radio, and he talks about it all the time. That it's very much like the salary cap, and it's misunderstood. There's ways you can navigate, maneuver through it, and regain your draft compensation. Turn around, all of a sudden you've got those picks back. And I think if Justin Fields does drop, I don't think it'll happen. I think the price tag for that 8th pick goes up exponentially, and they've got a chance to really leverage that because all of a sudden it's a top-tier quarterback. Maybe New England's looking to move up, and then there's maybe an offensive tackle at 15 for Carolina. So Yeah,
So to
I
answer
think
the question,
you're right.
yes, I could see them doing that. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. One more question from Paul C. If the Panthers go wide receiver, do they take a premium one in the first round and an offensive tackle at the top of the second, or reversed? I guess what Paul's asking here, do you see them taking one of the top wide receivers in the first round?
Again, this comes back to my personal feelings. I mean, it's exciting to think, what if Jamar Chase falls? Plug him in there. How exciting is that? And you think about, well, Robbie's just got 1 year left in his contract. DJ, they wouldn't be on his 5th. So like next year at this time, you might have to be addressing wide receiver in free agency or in the draft. So you could get it done now. But like again, like it's just I know you wanna. I know the Panthers would say like they don't have to draft for need, but to me like tackle corner the first couple days, like that's my shopping list. But that's just me. I'm probably not smart enough to be in that draft room.
So you think tackle and corner are like priority positions that they have to address? Obviously, this is your opinion. I'm not gonna try to put words in that this is what they want to do.
Yeah, no, because again, I don't know if they know what they want to do, because I mean, I think they have, like, if this happens, but I don't know if like they know how all this stuff's going to shake out. If it were me, I would have a hard time not factoring in need. Again, I know that you want to do best player available, but like maybe, a lot of times though, that best player available just also happens to fill that hole of need. And I mean, this class is just stacked with tackles. So maybe you don't have to do it there at 8. Maybe you can drop back and get one at 8, or you can get one on Friday. But I do think I would think that need somehow has to get in your back of your head on those first 2 days for the offensive line, and then maybe for corner as well. As far as, I don't know. I mean, I know defensive tackles in need. I just don't feel as strongly. And here's the guy that was just saying the lines, and being like, oh, who cares about the defensive tackle? So that's how much of an idiot I am. But I'm kind of just like, there's a lot of good corners and there's a lot of good tackles. There's a lot of good receivers too. So that's why I definitely don't think you do one in the top 10. But
yeah, I agree with that. Day 2, you can still get. I mean, that's where they got Curtis Samuel. They got him on the second day of the draft. I mean, coincidentally enough, they also got Taylor Moton on the second day of the
Dwayne
draft.
Jarrett also on the second day of the draft.
There you go.
Wait,
that's
who?
true. That's true.
Yeah, there you go.
Calvin Benjamin was a day 1 guy.
Yeah,
so
Kelvin
misses on each side.
That's it. You got to lay the litany. I can name some names from the 2000s. It'll make your head spin. Bill Voth joined, Assistant Director of Digital Broadcasting and Media. Is that your title? Did I get that right? Is that what they call you?
Yeah,
that's a long title. It's a good. I like it. It's great.
It's a long title. I run the content.
Yes, you're the runner of the content. I met you one time, Bill. It was at camp in 2011. I was a freelancer for Entercom down here, and kind of reached.
What's your name? You're Billy.
I'm John Ellis. It says John Ellis here.
Oh, I think I'm on the wrong podcast.
I think you are too.
Yeah.
You had you worked at WSOC back then. You were the sports director, and I remember you were one of the only guys there. You and Joe Person and maybe Scott Fowler kind of helped me, show me the ropes. You would tweet. It was back when Twitter, the advent of Twitter. You were tweeting, you might want to tweet here, show up at this time. I still save the tweet where you gave me advice on when to show up, be the first out there, and you've sort of like a role model to me in terms of how to do the content the right way. I've been to a few camps. I haven't had a lot of access, but I've tried hard to do some reporting. With that said, this is really a question about you. Your journey's been fascinating, obviously, from SOC. You're a Syracuse guy. You started the BBR, which was a great website. We all obviously just love the content, and that was a labor of love, I'm sure, from your end. And now, coordinating the same fine content to a larger degree with a great team there within the Panthers organization. Just tell us about your journey, Bill. Obviously, you love the city of Charlotte. It shows. You love this organization, and you love you're delivering content that people can feel like they're a part of. What has this journey been like for you?
Well, thank you for the kind words. It's been interesting. It's like when I was leaving SOC, it was just like local TV and newspapers like that. It was a ship to get off of. And it was like, I got to go start something where then I can hire the kids that are coming, because I'm going to be swept out of this quickly. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if it was up to me, I'd still be doing stuff with the microphone and still writing, blah, 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 blah. I just think that's one of the reasons why local newspapers and TV have died, is because it's all these old white people deciding that this is what we need to do because we've always done it.
Right.
And it's like, no, get the hell out of the way. Let the people who are like carving out what like good content is now, let them do it.
Yeah.
Give them, try and get them access, fight for them here and there, push them, but like you shouldn't be the one delivering it, and that's kind of been my thing here. It's probably also a lack of self-confidence, but it's just so I've been really fortunate to just be in a position where, and I call them kids. It ranges from 22 to 30 something, but like that's still kids to me. It's just they are so in every realm, in every bucket we have here, everyone's just better than me, and that's what it should be, I think. And no matter what field you're in, if you're in a position of management, it's hire people that are smarter and better than you, and then let them go. And that's why a lot of it depends on access, and that's what you like. Thank you to Samir. Thank you, because the more access we get, the more we're allowed to do, the more cameras we can get in here and there, the more we can do. And that's a fight and a battle, because and I don't mean that fight and a battle in a bad way, but like, football people, like you don't need cameras around. This isn't a reality show. Like, this is a lot of people's jobs are at stake here. Like, this is a lot of money and and here I am wanting to like Truman Show everything. Like, that's my job. If I could Truman Show everything, I would. But that's not the reality of the situation. So it's how transparent can you be? So that's why when I got here, like, that's who I still am on Twitter, unfortunately, for better or for worse. Like, I'm as transparent as possible. I'm trying to make them as transparent as possible, because it's just, I know that football people don't want to be transparent, but it's great for the fan bases. And then also, I think when you're like transparent, and that's why I think like when Rule's up there saying these things, it's like, well, you should, I don't know. It's just, you build your credibility that way. And that's been my thing. And so I know I'm sarcastic and I'm caustic and I'm whatever, but that's just who I am.
That's wonderful. I think that's great. It's one of the things I admire about you most is your snark. And if you don't know Bill that well and you get hit with the snark, obviously it's going to hit you wrong. I remember last year's, or it was 2 years ago, the draft, the Will Greer, people were just jumping on you.
Oh, they should.
Let's
talk about it. Okay, let's talk about it. Because I am, listen, people, and they'll still bring it up, and they will crush me as they should.
And they still do, right? I see it still. I'm like, the hell is this?
I'm happy to say I was a jackass for being that flippant about it. With that said, I am completely happy and comfortable, and you can tell me I'm wrong, to say that to take a quarterback late in the third round after not taking a quarterback in all those years, knowing what I knew about Cam and his shoulder then, him coming off of a second shoulder surgery, them finally bringing in a young quarterback to the pipeline, to me, that made sense. Take a flyer on him than just a safety. Now I understand this Chauncey Gardner, let him. Like, he's fine, but like, you needed to build up a new. If you want to argue, was it the right quarterback? Totally understand that.
Sure, yeah.
But the fact that they finally took a quarterback, it was just like, okay, now they're finally planning for the future. One of the reasons the Teddy thing happened last year is because they weren't prepared for life after Cam. That's what. Do you want to do a Jordan Love thing? What the Packers are doing right now? I don't know. I mean, that's not making people up there happy. But when Aaron's done, maybe they can have a seamless transition where Cam to whoever wasn't going to be seamless. It's just it's difficult. So I know I'm rambling, but people can crush that one. That's fine.
Rambling's good.
When I'm wrong, I'm happy for people to tell me I was wrong.
We've had pod guests that will barely open up and say a word. Rambling is good. We can always edit Bill, but I don't think we will in this one. Cam Newton. Let's just examine where he is in his career. You were one of the, I think, more outspoken, if not very direct with people about the shoulder issue. It's dating back to, I believe, 17. And of course, it was aggravated in 16 with the interception, ran down, the injury in 18, of course, with Watt. The way he played in 17, I thought, was fairly remarkable considering. And then early on with North Turner, they adjusted the offense horizontally to sort of help with that arm. But we saw the All or Nothing series. I know what was fascinating by that is just some of the behind-the-scenes stuff where he and Scott were in the quarterback room, and there was ice on that shoulder every week. And I think the Philly game, he was probably his most sore. Where do you see his career arc now? Does he still have an opportunity, given what you know and what you've learned about his condition and his shoulder, to make 2 or 3 more good years out of this?
Let's start back with the Was 18 all or nothing season or 19? I get my numbers confused.
It was 18. Yeah, 19 was the Kyle Allen
Right.
experience.
Yeah, 17. He was 17. He was really good. That playoff game in New Orleans, he was incredible.
Oh, yes.
So 19. Now they were 6-2.
Yep.
Right, and everyone goes, the Watt hit. Like, why was Taylor Heineke coming in to throw? Like, It's Taylor Heineke. It's Cam Newton. Like, what? Like, how was that not setting off alarm bells? And people were just like, oh, da, 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 da. Like, he could, like, listen. Was he really, really good? Was he really good in this new system? Yeah, he was. He was really impressive in Norm's system. And maybe you could have won with a quarterback like that. But he didn't have an arm like he used to, and that's okay. Like, neither did Drew Brees. Kept winning games. He didn't win a Super Bowl after that first one, but Drew Brees kept winning games over the past decade or so with an arm that couldn't go downfield. So Cam could, yes, but there was something different there, and people didn't want to hear it in that first half of that season. And then the Watt hit in the Philly game. All that accelerated everything.
It just seemed like Matt was never going to be completely comfortable with that dynamic in terms of a quarterback with an iffy arm. It just seemed to me he wanted his own guy to begin with when he came in that building. Were there any rifts that you could pick on between the owner and the quarterback along the way there?
No, and the owner and Cam are good.
Okay.
The rule, like, first of all, if you come in, you usually want your new guy anyway. You want your own guy anyway.
Sure.
Then knowing Cam, like what was going on with Cam's injury, if you're Matt Rule, and I know I sound like an apologist here for the Cam lovers, but like I also think it's rational. Like, you want your new guy anyway. Even take away the personality type stuff of it. Like, there's a guy that had 2 shoulder surgeries and then a foot thing, and it's just like, I mean, really, like you want to, yeah, I could understand why you want to wipe that slate clean. I do believe this because I was involved in like a lot of these, like, because we were trying to film a show back then. Like, he really did, like, what he said at the combine was the truth. Like, he was looking forward to playing with him. And then because they didn't think that Teddy was going to be available. Like, they thought Teddy was going elsewhere. So then when Teddy became available, it was like, okay, we'll pull the trigger here. That, in my perspective, is what happened. Clearly, I'm not. But this will surprise you. I'm not in a lot of the meetings that Tepper and Rule have.
Come on, Bill.
So it's a lot of this, but a lot of it's just educated and then reading tea leaves and then kind of being rational. Like, Cam was not healthy, and if you're a new head coach, so I think that has more of a factor than anything big personality wise.
Right.
So like, if you're me and you're going to try and give me both of them, it's like, okay, fine, that's fine, but like, if you give me a fresh start too, I'm cool with that too.
Yeah, and I totally like, if you were at SOC, I would ask you the same questions because your perspective has always been very fresh and very unique.
If you're going to blame anybody, blame us, blame me, blame the social team, because you're trying to navigate how the hell you move on from Cam Newton, and I understand, like, what are the right things to say? I know
it's got to be impossible.
Yeah. What is the right thing to say, though? And no one ever gave me. Now I will listen, and I will gladly hear people saying you did not do Cam. What you posted was not right by Cam. I will listen to that, and I will hear you. But then I'll say, well, what should have happened? And that's a lot harder for people to say what should have happened.
I am like you. I'm a snark king, and I've probably poked fun at it when it happened. But in the reality, I understand the business, and you can't say much. I mean, look, what are you going to do? He's still kind of on the roster. They've announced they're going to give him permission to be traded. You guys eventually made one of the best production pieces I've ever seen. Thanking Cam. The whole thing was strange, Bill. I mean, it was a COVID environment. He was coming into rehab there. He was in the middle of it. He was obviously dealing with, a lot on his plate. And then this new coach is a very aggressive mindset. I don't know if Matt just really wanted to size that up and then say, I don't have time to deal with the question marks about this injury. I got to get my guy in here.
You know who the football love of my life is still? It's Bernie Kosar. I remember where I was when the Browns got rid of Bernie Kosar. Well, I was walking to math class in high school. Like, I remember exactly where I was.
Oh,
Does that mean it was the wrong decision to do it? No, and the way Bill Belichick did it, was it the right way to do it? Back then, no, I'm still probably pissed about it, and it's understandable because Bernie, in my lifetime, put the Browns somewhere they had never been before. Cam is times 5 to 10 of that because Cam elevated an organization, a city, states. Cam transcended.
It was always going to be hard.
whether you're a fan in Charlotte, if you're a fan in South Carolina, whether you're a fan in Washington, whether you're a fan in Germany, like Cam made you as a Panther fan matter. Like you would get one of the top broadcasting teams because Cam was there. Cam was relevant.
Yeah.
So yeah, the divorce is never going to be clean or easy. But I don't think people with bad intentions with that. It was always going to be really ugly.
Yeah, there's two sides to it. We've always been very fair in our analysis and our shows and our writing about it. They look, fans that follow our content, my page, Billy's as well. I mean, they're crazy for Cam Newton. I'd say 90% of the people thought that it was a mistake. Look, that's neither here nor there. It was done at the time. The only thing I questioned was the Bridgewater contract because I'd seen the tape on him. I thought to me, I'm like you. I'm not a GM. I'm not a doctor either, but I'm not a GM, and I'm certainly not going to pass judgment. I just will say this. I think it's 2 years of commitment with Bridgewater, and now they're sort of in this, how do we get him off our books? That seemed, at time, a 1-year deal would have seemed more fair, but I think that, to your point, there was something that Marty and the guys there saw, that there was some urgency to get him in the building. And
Dave Tepper had a press conference in December, and he talked about learning from mistakes.
Yes, he did.
And I think that's a mistake, if you want to call it a mistake. I think Teddy can still play. I don't think he was as bad as he was in the second half of the season because I thought it was pretty good. Like,
he did his thing. He did what he does.
First half of the season, he was not bad.
He was sharp.
So I don't know if it was a mistake, but I hear what you're saying. They tried to have literally the bridge quarterback, and then it was just like there's just not working here.
It just didn't work. And to their credit, I mentioned earlier, to their credit, at least they're sort of trying to move on quickly here and get things right. Last question, Bill, and this is one you'll love from one of our fans on Twitter. What's your take on the uniforms? Are they ever going to change them?
I think so, yeah. I mean, fortunately, I'm not in marketing, so I cannot answer that question.
We'll blame you if they do or don't. I'm just letting you know.
I mean, I don't think it's happening this year. Yeah. Because those things take a little bit. But yeah, I imagine we'll see a refresh. But I don't know how to answer those except to just kind of laugh. I really don't care.
That's why I asked it.
I just don't. The ones I like, because the thing is like I don't have a take on it either. Like I don't know. I thought the Color Rush ones are cool.
Well, I like that your brownies. I like that they went back. They got off of that got off of Cleveland on the front strip. Oh, it was in the pants. That's what I like to see is, they admitted it's like Tepper. They admitted their mistake. They went back to the classics. They look great out there, man.
But I also don't care what the Browns are wearing. Like they could be wearing the worst uniforms you've ever seen in your life.
Oh, come on. You care, Bill. Come on.
Yeah, no. If they're good, all I care about is if they're good. If they're bad in good uniforms, what do I care?
Okay, case in point.
But if they're,
Denver Broncos.
What are some actually
1997, 98, the Broncos, people hated those uniforms and they won 2 Super Bowls and they were out there just starting in the streets.
The Bobcats was a horrible name. It was a horrible concept. But if the Bobcats had drafted, say, Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, and that place was filled every night, people would have been fine with the Bobcats name. Sure, they would have wanted the Hornets name, but they would have shown up and been happy that the Bobcats were ripping apart the league. Listen, I don't care what you put the Browns in. If they won, I'm happy.
Speaking of Cleveland, are you going to be in Cleveland for the draft, or are you staying local?
Of course he is.
TBD.
He's got to be there. Come on.
It's funny. Even today, why would I go when we've got all these things we have to do here, content-wise?
You were in Nashville.
I was in Nashville.
Bill, it's Cleveland, buddy. Come on. It's your home, man.
Because I remember he interviewed Brian Burns' brother after
Stanley.
I'm not going if we know that whoever they're going to pick is not going to be there, and which is the problem, is because since there's really no telling what's going to happen, I think I am going to Cleveland, but still being wishy-washy about it.
Breaking news, folks. Breaking news. Just into the newsroom here. Bill Voth thinks he's going to Cleveland.
That city.
It is a big guy. Yes, you're right, Bill. It's a homecoming. It's like Bernie Kosar coming home. Bill Voth, ladies and gentlemen. Bill, this has been fun, man. Thanks for making time. Any big projects coming? I know you talked about a few things you're working on. Anything we'd be looking for on the website that you and your team are working on right now?
Yeah, there's something up the draft. Have you heard the draft is coming up?
Something about that, yeah.
So there's that. There's a few things around the draft. I think it's by the end of the month. And then schedule release after that. It's just, you hire the right people and you tell them go. And so we're hoping to. Our last 2 schedule releases have been pretty good. A video theme 2 years ago, and last year the quarantine theme. And so you're just continuously trying to one up. And so we are working on something where if these things hit, it'll be pretty good. At least we hope so.
That's great stuff. Where the hell's Cart Talk? What's going on? What's the latest on Cart Talk?
Well, again,
I'm
not sure. Again, I'm not sure if you've been reading the news. There's been something called a pandemic over the past.
You could take two.
So.
You could take 2 carts with GoPros and drive beside each other. You can always adjust.
Somebody did a few months ago. Suggested I play Mario Kart with these guys and have a chat. I thought that was really funny. I've been too lazy to try and figure out how technically it could make it happen. If we get some clearances on vaccines and who we can be around as far as like the vaccinated rules,
I guess
and
that's a good
which
point.
players we can be around and when, then Cart Talk will come back.
Bill Voth from Panthers.com. He's just doing it all there content-wise. One of our favorite follows at Panthers Bill. He has another account as well. Don't bother on that. That's just where he likes to have some peace and quiet.
No. The other one is where I talk soccer.
Oh, it's
when are we talking about this? When are we talking about the Super League?
I don't know, man. Real Madrid's president is having
Billy's been really quiet on this right now. Now Billy's chiming in, so let's do it. Yeah, let's talk about the Super League. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I mean it's kind of crazy. I really can't believe it's actually happening. To be honest with you,
is it though?
I mean, I'm looking at these quotes. The Real Madrid president, who's supposedly the chief architect, is saying it's 100% happening. He's supposed to be having interviewed right now. It sounds like no matter how bad the PR is, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, no, I told some, or maybe I tweeted this yesterday. Like it feels a lot like the night of the Brexit vote, where it's like it's literally a different country, and you're like, this can't be happening, right? And it's like, no, it really is, and you're like, they can't, and it just keeps like the more the news comes out, you're like, how? Like I read today, like Chelsea could get thrown out of the Champions League semis, which would not make me happy.
See, and I don't think that's going to happen.
John, what do you?
What's the art form? What am I looking for in a good soccer game schematically? What do I need to be interested in? Because I never watch it.
I don't care about schematics. Do you really? I just care
about. I mean, it's kind of tough to really care about schematics.
See, like I said, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Good wine. Like I don't know wine. I don't know wine, and I don't play golf well. Yeah. I just kind of like doing both. But I'm not an expert in it. But having games on during the day as background noise, like baseball games, is tremendous.
Yeah,
because nothing really happens. So then you look up when like the announcer's voice gets up, and then you see the goal.
You guys are stoked about the MLS, Bill. I know you. I mean, Bill, you're just stoked about the soccer team in Charlotte. You got to be, man. Your hands are going to be all in that, obviously. That's a big deal. I mean, that is all jokes aside. That's a huge deal for Dave Tepper to have landed that. I mean, just talk about that for a second before we let you go. Just the impact that's going to have on this community. Obviously, we joke about it. I know soccer a little bit. My kids love it, but it's not my cup of tea. But I think I'm going to have to get into it now. With Charlotte's got a team now. Let's go.
Well, like most people in the world, the last 14 or 15 months have been pretty difficult. They brought in Nick Kelly, their new president, and he's really, really, really smart, and he really understands how you need to build these things. Like building a soccer team is like the opposite of how you build an NFL team. Like NFL team, like, no, you're a fan. Like you do what the team tells you to do. Like soccer, it's like supporters should like be guiding you what they want. And Nick understands that. And so I think there's going to be a lot of good work done over the next year. I think it was really smart. Last week they announced that they're going to be on free all over the air TV, all their games in the Charlotte area. In that first year, which is just vitally important. They're going to have a lot of good streaming options for people that aren't in the Charlotte area. And then they had another second announcement that was good last week that I can't remember, but it was good. What was it? I can't remember. But no, Nick's here, and I think Nick's doing good things. And he doesn't have a lot of time, but he's going to make up a bunch of ground, and I think it's going to be a good thing for sure.
Awesome. I heard a bunch. Didn't they have like quite a bit of European guys to like run the operations, like the football or soccer operations?
A little bit. I'm trying to find this Nick. That's this thing I put out last week about Nick. Yeah, I think yeah. There's a good amount of that. I don't know how that compares to the rest of the MLS. But yeah, there's a fair amount of European folks in there.
Well, it'll be fascinating. And then, obviously with what's going to come next with the stadium, I see some alterations being made, of course, and they have to do that, obviously. But will there be a stadium eventually, maybe across the street where the tracks are? I've been following this, Bill. I've been going to games since I was like 15. I'm old. I'm like you. I've been around for a while. And, this team means a lot to Billy and I and to you as well. But I think Dave Tepper, honestly, I'm not just saying this because you're on the radio with us here. I'm not just saying this because you work for the gentleman, because I know you're very fair. You're very thorough. You're not going to kiss anybody's butt here. I think Dave's on the right track. I was skeptical, and he's the owner. It's not like you can fire the owner. I really do think he's trying to do this the right way. And a lot of owners, you can't say them. And like Pat Kerwin says on the radio, he's been through this. One quote I love from him is, you got to learn how to own. And I think he's finally sort of getting to a point where he's got the business side. You were a part of that, Bill. I mean, you were in the middle of helping him reshape a lot of what was happening on the business end, I'm sure. And now he's able to focus in on, helping give the football operations people what they need to be successful.
Yeah, no, he's listen, we all knew the business side and whatnot. Like, all this kind of just needed to be blown up and modernized. And now he's trying to do it with three organizations, really, like Tepper Sports and Entertainment / the stadium, and then the Panthers and MLS. So I don't know how this stuff's going to work out. He doesn't either. But he's certainly trying, and he's trying to give people the tools to be successful, and we'll see.
Well, Bill, you've been kind to join us here. We were showing you on the pod. You were literally, folks won't see this, but he was running down a hallway with a phone in his hand. It was like there was a fire. And I just imagine Bill, his speed. I first met Bill, like I said, back in 2011. That was his energy from day one where I met the guy, just nonstop. And it's why he's doing such a great job here with the Panthers. Bill Voth, thank you so much, man.
Thank you, guys.
All right, next time on the Roar Podcast, Dane Brugler is going to join us from The Athletic to break down the NFL draft. Thanks to Bill Voth, Panthers.com, for joining us. We'll see you next time right here on Blue Wire.